But I want to get into something about when you love somebody. When you're in love, you know, and I've been in love. I'm in love every moment, all the time. I'm forever in love. But when you're in love with somebody, there's a kind of craziness. You love all kind of things about a person that might even be crazy. Like, it's like when you have a girlfriend who has a pot belly. That looks ugly. But, on her it looks beautiful. And it probably doesn't really look beautiful on her, but to you it looks beautiful. And she's young and she's got gray hair and somehow it looks beautiful. And all kind of things look beautiful and a little blemish might look beautiful or something. And you just think, oh, everything about her is beautiful. And if you saw somebody else like that on the streets who looked just like your girlfriend, before she became your girlfriend, before you fell in love with her, you would have said, wow, that woman look ugly. Or that woman, ugh, that looks disgusting. Or that, the same thing, you would have a complete different view of it. When you're in love with something, and not even a person, just a thing, for example, you see beauty in it. I love poetry. I think it's beautiful. I was just reading some John Keats poems, and I thought, it's so beautiful. I just see the beauty in it. There are other people who will read John Keats' poetry, and they don't like poetry at all, and they will say, this stuff is so boring, and it doesn't make sense, and it's crazy. This is nuts. I read philosophy books. I love being in nothingness. Jean-Paul Sartre's book. And I was so happy when I finished reading that book. I said, I got to do something to celebrate this. I said, I got to do something. And I looked at the book. And, I'm looking. Jean-Paul Sartre, born in Paris, 1905. I said, that's it. I'm going to go to Paris. I remember saying that in 2002. It was like just after Christmas, around about December 27th or something. I said, mid-September, I'm going to go to Paris next year, which was 2003. And that's what I did. I went. I left. And it's kind of funny. I left on September 11th, 2003. Recommendation to anybody. If you ever travel, don't go anywhere on September 11th. That's the worst day to travel. That's when they have security up the ass at the airports. But anyway, the thing is that, I love philosophy. I love the philosophical questions. And I love science. I said before, I don't trust science. No, I don't trust science for everything, but I do trust science to be science. It's just like having a girlfriend, and I trust her to be her, but not with everything. I don't trust her to do surgery on me. I don't trust her to repair my car or to fix my computer, but I trust her to be her. And I think that's an interesting thought. When you love someone, you do get crazy, but you're also sane at the same time. It makes me think about times when we become temporarily insane by choice. And I must say that, even though, I know it sounds crazy, but it's like when you go to the movies. One of my favorite movies is Star Wars. I love Star Wars, the old Star Wars. The newer ones that they came up with, I could take those or leave them. But I like the first Star Wars movie and the Empire Strikes Back and the Return of the Jedi. And when you watch those movies, you get into it. For that 2 hours or 2.5 hours or however long the movies last, you just suspend all disbelief that this stuff is totally unreal. And you get into it. In other words, you're kind of temporarily insane. You take that stuff as being real. But when the movie is over, when the final credits roll, you come back to reality, so to speak. And you say, wow, that was a great movie. You get into it, and you get into this temporary insanity so that you can enjoy the experience. I think that's one thing that happens when I'm doing art, when I'm painting. And I have to show some of my rock paintings, which I will do in the upcoming weeks, because I love to paint. The thing is that you start to discover that in painting, you become temporarily insane. A flower, for example, doesn't have to look like what we think a flower looks like. When I paint flowers, for example, they look like no type of flowers you've ever seen. I'll paint things that don't look like anything you've ever seen before. I don't see reality for what it is. I see it for what I want to see. So that's kind of insane. You know, because sanity for most people is defined as seeing things for what they are. But I think sometimes, in order to be a great artist, you have to see things for what they aren't. I was just thinking, there was a little art festival in my neighborhood a little while ago. And someone had a quote on the wall. They painted this picture, and they had a portrait of Oscar Wilde, who, by the way, when I was in Paris, I went to his grave in Paris. And it was a quote from Oscar Wilde that says, "No artist ever sees things for what they are. If they did, then they wouldn't create art, or it wouldn't be art," or something like that. And I thought, that's so true. So I think I'm more like an artist when I talk. I don't see things for what they are. But that doesn't really mean I'm really insane. Insane in the sense that you need to really be concerned about. That you need to worry and lock your doors and grab all the kids and lock them up and lock everybody up and stay in your house trembling in fear. Sometimes I think we have to see things for what they aren't. Use imagination. Have fun. See, when I was a kid, that was the thing. To just fantasize. You know, I could sit in a cardboard box with my friends. I had a friend named Richard and another friend named Ollie. And we could sit there in a box and we could pretend, during those times, that was when the Apollo space program was a big thing. We could pretend like that was the Apollo space capsule. And the next day we can get in that same cardboard box, big box that somebody had a refrigerator in or whatever, and we could pretend that it was a submarine. You know, and we weren't crazy. We were just pretending. I think that some people don't know the difference. And I'm not just talking to people who pretend, but people who criticize people who pretend. There are some people who are so rational, and I think I made a video like this talking about this before. There are some people who are so rational, and they are so logical, and everything has to be exactly the way things really are, that they don't see things realistically. In a funny way, not seeing things realistically is unrealistic. To always demand that everything has to be realistic. If they see a painting, like an abstract painting, they can't enjoy it. They can't enjoy abstract art. They can't enjoy music if the lyrics don't make sense. The lyrics have to make sense. You know, being around people like that is very uncomfortable. They demand that reality has to look exactly the way reality looks. Which makes me think that reality doesn't look the way it looks. It's like, I always think about the quote from Einstein, something I remember reading this article, and that phrase that he's used stuck out in my mind forever. When he said, the reality is the way things are. The way things appear is not the way things are. And sometimes reality is what we choose to think it is. You know, if I think that the world is positive and that the world is perfect, then it is. And people can say you're crazy because the world isn't perfect. Then it's okay to be crazy for a moment. And I do it purely for the feelings. I do it because it makes me feel good to imagine I live in a perfect world. So anybody who wants to criticize me for being crazy, feel free to. Just know I'm actually not going to respond to it. Because you might be right.